What is happening, dudes? This is Trent, and today I have a very, very special treat for you. I'm coming out of my cave, and and I decided to invite a few of my friends onto my YouTube channel to talk about their artwork and to talk about how they broke into the game industry and what it's like to work as a developer in the game industry. And so this is kind of a new thing for me. I've never done really interviews with other people before. So I kept it very cash, super cash. It's just us hanging out and chit-chatting, talking about art and games and movies and all kinds of cool stuff. For this first inaugural episode, I have the very talented and awesome John Polidora, goes by JP. And if you pick up sketchbooks, you might have seen his Norse Chowder sketchbooks. You can, of course, get all that stuff online. And I'm doing it, man. And I'm taking a little bit, just a smidge of credit for pushing this awesome artist to start recording his videos and getting his own YouTube channel going. And so I did have the pleasure of sitting down with him for about an hour and talking about a little bit of his process and all kinds of fun stuff. He did do an original painting for this video, and I'm going to have that going in the time lapse in the background. So without further ado, let's take a look at that conversation. How did that go? Let's listen in. JP, that is short for John Polidora, right?
Yeah, I prefer John, actually.
Oh, okay. So is that the correct pronunciation of your name, Polidora?
Polidora, yes.
Okay. And how long have you been an artist? How long have you been a digital artist? And were you drawing on paper or anything else before that professionally?
Let's see. I've been drawing since I was about 2, but
Okay.
not professionally.
Well, that would be pretty impressive.
Let's see. I started doing digital in college, but I wasn't hired as a professional until I was about 24. But then I've been a digital artist ever since. But most of my personal work nowadays, I do in pencil first, because I feel like I get more satisfaction out of it, and it feels like I'm kind of leveling up 2 skill sets with every piece, right?
They are very different. But what was the when you were a kid? There was a turning point. There is for every artist. There's a turning point at which you decide, like, this is it. I'm going to be an artist, man. That's what I'm going to be, right? Like, that is your identity. When did you, was it a decision that you made? Was it something that was pushed on you? Like, what brought you into being an artist?
Well, I mean, if you ask my mom, I was probably always going to be an artist just because I was always drawing. I was always making something. But I mean, there was a point where I was pretty good at everything that I wanted to be good at it at school, but I was just always more interested in doing art. So that's kind of what I chose to chase, I've always had my family's support. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Was there a distinctive moment where you felt like a kind of a level of encouragement or like a distinct moment where you realized I'm better than this at other things?
I don't know because I to be honest, I sucked for a really long time.
Every artist does.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure I could actually do this as as a career. I wasn't sure if there was actual jobs out there to support somebody who wanted to draw for a living until comic books. And I mean, like, I didn't even really get into comics until I was about, I want to say 13 or 14. Then I was like, wow, look at this. I could do this. I could do this. People are making a lot of money doing this. I told my parents, and they're like, well, you should go to school for that.
Well, if that was in the 90s, then that was true.
Yeah, in the 90s, it was true.
Not so much. Well, I know a few guys that do pretty well these days, but certainly not in the indie scene. But that was, let's see, that would have been what, early mid 90s for you?
Yeah, I think it was probably 1991, 92. Because I'm old. I'm an old guy.
Well, you're about my age. Yeah. We're old in contrast to, I guess, like people who saw the prequels of Star Wars before the original trilogy. Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
old in contrast to that. Yeah. But so was your first professional gig a comic book gig? Like you clearly you had like a passion. That's what got you into drawing and wanting to pursue it as a career.
Well,
But
that's that.
did it turn out that way?
No, because when I was in school, that's what I really wanted to do. That's what my first classes where I chased illustration because the school told me and my parents, this is what you would do to kind of become a comic book artist, right?
Yeah.
But I highly doubt they knew what they were doing.
Did you go to the Joe Kubert school?
No, no, I went to a really good school. Like it's got a really good name, but I don't feel comfortable saying it out loud just because, I don't want anybody to feel bad who might be going there now. I just
I don't know what you mean by that. You're also implying that the Joe Kubert school is not a good school for
Oh
comic.
no, 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 not at all. I wish I had gone there. That would have
Yeah.
made more sense. I went to an incredibly expensive school that was on paper it still has a really good name, but it just didn't really teach me all that much. And while I was in there, I don't know, it just sort of it seemed like an impossible dream because it doesn't seem like they knew how to teach me anything that would be useful to get me where I wanted to go.
Interesting.
So I just ended up talking to my friends and playing a lot of video games and falling in love with Capcom art. And say that as I'm sitting here with my Capcom T-shirt on.
What
Still a
is it?
fan.
Street Fighter?
No, I went on eBay and bought a vintage Capcom T-shirt.
Oh, it just says Capcom.
Yeah, it just says Capcom.
I have an old Capcom work shirt from when I worked there. I could give you. It's vintage in the sense that it's all crinkled and like
I
because it was
appreciate that. I
14
would wear
years
that.
ago. Yeah, it's official, legit merchandise there for employees. So Capcom was your thing. You got into that was your transition then when you were in college away from comic books
Yeah.
into wanting to work in video games, right?
Yeah, video games and manga and anime, just the
Yeah,
idea that there were other venues out there that potentially had more job availability, you
yeah,
know, to people who wanted to draw and paint.
yeah.
And I mean, at that point, I only really knew how to draw, kinda, not even really. I didn't know anything really about painting. I went to school to learn, and they didn't really teach me.
Huh.
So at that point, I just started taking digital painting classes so that I could sit there and teach myself
Yeah.
because the teachers wouldn't ever show up to teach us.
It's true. This is before YouTube. This is before Gumroad and all
Uh,
of these resources that we have now.
you're
Where
gonna make me feel old. Yeah, it's
no,
1997, 1998.
but what an insane advantage
Yeah.
these young punks, I mean kids, have that they can just take our jobs now because we'll give away everything we spent 20 years learning how to do on our own, trudging
Well,
through it. You
that's
know,
the thing, though. That's the thing. I mean, like, you can teach somebody how you do what you do, but being able to say, you know, you could completely replicate what I'm doing, I don't know if that's necessarily true,
well,
right?
there's also
Because
thinking creatively, which is
yeah,
not
because
something that you can
yeah,
teach.
yeah, you can't really explain what's going on in any artist's head, right? And whatever they're drawing or painting, it's like you can record them, they can say this is what I'm doing now, but the methodology inside your head, you can't really explain that. At least
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
That's why I try to be very loose with the videos that I do. I try to not be so regimented and strict about like, oh, well, first I'm following like this Fibonacci sequence of like finding the golden mean for my compositions. No, I mean, sometimes I think that, but most of
Mhm.
the time I'm not. Most of the time there's like subconscious training that like Bruce Lee, I think he would train and he would study the strict methods of doing something, but in the moment of actual application, he was in a flow state where he was just relying on those things that he was training for before, but unconsciously, he was just letting it flow in that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
all that said, what is your feeling about art schools in the present day? Like when we got into the game industry, there was really only one school that was teaching video game art. That was Digipen that I knew of. Um, but now there's a lot more classes for that sort of a thing. What is your feeling on taking courses at like say an LCAD or another school to learn conceptual design for video games?
Well, LCAD's a really great school, and if I had the opportunity to go there when I was a kid, it probably would have been extremely beneficial. I say that, but consider the next thing that I'm going to say. Not every school falls into that category in my mind. A lot of them, I don't know if they necessarily know what they're doing,
Hmm.
and I think it kind of benefits students nowadays to decide whether or not they have the drive to do it without formally attaching a diploma to the idea of educating themselves, right?
Hmm.
So, are you in it to kind of drive yourself from one class to the next, right? Say you want to take Nomon classes or online classes, you want to go through what is it, Imaginism,
Yeah.
right? You want to take classes, but you want to pick and choose who's going to teach you what. As long as you I feel like as long as you stick with it and you give yourself a plan and you keep on top of your own education, right?
Hmm.
I don't necessarily see the institution being all that necessary. Because the most important thing that I think you need to improve is really a sense of community, right?
Right.
You need like-minded, well-driven people to kind of push you,
And
to kind
challenge
of
you.
want,
Yeah.
yeah, to want to improve.
And
And
people who get excited when you succeed,
yeah,
when you pull off something that you'd never done before.
and the
And they're like,
reality
"Oh
is,
yeah, like you're trying this new thing. I love what you've been doing with this new style or this new approach to rendering metals or whatever it is." Yeah, like you get that encouragement. It keeps you moving, keeps you
you
motivated.
used to need to get that from art school, but the reality is now you can get that online,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
There's so many online like art communities that it's not necessary really, I don't think anymore to kind of have to go to school to find your pack,
You
right?
could also get slammed. I mean, like, some of those communities can be so discouraging because, you can see you can see some artists that you might look at and go, oh, well, like I could do a little bit better stuff than that. And then they've got like, 50 likes on their thing. You look at yours and it's like, I got like 5 likes,
Hmm.
and like it could be discouraging and it could make people want to give up. And that's where like it could be a negative thing
Well,
to the bigger like groups, but smaller forums. I agree with you.
I totally agree with you that like, it's hard to be told I don't like that, and you're gonna hear people will hear that, artists will hear that their whole lives, right? I mean,
I don't
oh,
know.
you're very lucky, man. Very lucky. When I was in art school, my drawing teacher
Yeah.
was famous for walking around the class while people were drawing from the model or from the still life, taking your drawing off of your drawing board, crumpling it up, tearing it up, and then throwing it out of a fourth story window onto a dumpster below in front of everyone.
Well, for
So,
one, he's probably would make an awesome basketball player if that's true. um, that sounds crazy. It was that brutal, huh? That
yeah,
cold.
well, I mean, my point is that like people can hate on you in front, like to your face, and they can hate on you like with the anonymity of the internet. The point is to kind of be able to use that as either to fuel yourself or to kind of, if you're going to use it to discourage yourself, use it that way. But
Yeah.
it's more beneficial to just say, you know what, all the people that really like it are probably quiet
Oh,
because it's
yeah.
usually the case, you
That's
know.
true. Yeah. Dude, like, I know what you mean though. Sometimes, like, I need a certain level of support, like a certain level of positive reinforcement, and I
Hmm.
need just enough of that negative, like somebody telling me you can't do that or you're not good enough for that. Like I get such a mean on. I get so angry that I won't even sleep. I'll stay up. Like somebody told me you can't. I applied for a gig on Metal Gear Solid, and my work. I'm not a good fit
Yeah.
for that game.
Hmm.
So the
Well.
team shot me down. But that night, I was like,
Mhm.
you can't tell me what I can't do. So I stayed up all night. I went through all the concept art books for Metal Gear. I was looking up even like Call of Duty style concept sheets, and
Mhm.
I was looking up very realistic blueprint sheets for toolkits and like military equipment. And I was painting out these designs, and I put something together that I felt like I got this. This is a totally different tier for me, and yet I never even really sent it to them. They didn't. They never even saw it. But for me, it was like I needed to prove to myself I'm not limited by what other people tell me I can't do. So I equate it in percentages. I kind of go, I need 70% support and encouragement and like 20, 30% discouragement. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. I can't tell you how many times I'd been told you can't do that, and I'm not going to name names, but it's happened like a
Oh, yeah.
lot to me professionally, and it's just like it's never going to work. You're never going to get there. You're never going to be able to do this. And the reality is, I've sacrificed a lot, but I get just about everything I want when I try hard enough, and that it's true because
Must be
it's like,
nice. Must be nice.
well, I don't aim that high.
I see. But
You know?
but we're I mean, you and I have worked in some of the most like challenging development environments because of the tier of talent that these places attract,
Yeah.
and so that pressure is always on.
Well, I mean, I work with a, a bunch of incredibly wonderful and yet intimidating artists because they're so freaking amazing at everything they do.
Yeah.
But I count myself so lucky to be there because, I mean, as much as like I do bring good things to the table, like every time I pick where I want to work and what I want to do, I make sure that there's people there that I can learn from that are a lot better than me, you
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
and B, that it's something that I actually want to do, right?
That's
Because
probably the most important thing. If you're being pushed in a direction that you don't want to be going,
yeah,
then that can be extremely discouraging.
yeah, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should, right?
Yeah.
Got to be happy.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about your early career. I want to talk about how did you break into working in games? Because you presently work at Blizzard Entertainment. Did you work at another game studio previous to that?
Blizzard is my second studio. I've
Oh,
been there for about 10 years now. But before that, I worked at a tiny little studio on the island of Oahu in Hawaii,
hmm,
um, which was a division of Konami, right?
yeah.
And we made very small games.
What do you mean,
Well,
like mobile before mobile? It was on
well,
phones, or like, what do you mean by small
well,
games?
well, we made games for the Game Boy Advance, the DS, and the PlayStation Portable, PSP, right?
Nice.
But our reason I say small is because Konami is a relatively big studio, like company, but our teams were about 13 people or less usually.
Were you working on like 16-bit colors, like
Yeah,
256 by 256? So you
yeah,
know how all that stuff works.
yeah. My first job when I was hired was to do sprite artwork,
Yeah.
artwork and animation. So we had 16 color palettes, which really, if you know anything about it, it means 15 because the 16th has to be transparent,
Yep.
right? And I got my first dose of color theory by doing that.
Yeah.
My first dose of actual color theory education by doing sprite artwork. And
Yeah. My first gig was on the Game Boy Advance as well.
mhm.
Do you know what was your first title and what year was it released?
um,
Do you remember?
I don't remember the year of release. I'll have to think about that for a second. But it was the Forgotten Relic for the
Okay.
Game Boy Advance, and it was God. What year was that? Might be 2003. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was 2003. And then immediately after that, we started work on two more Frogger games simultaneously. One for the 3D, not 3DS. I'm getting ahead of myself. One for the DS and one for the PSP at the same time.
Oh,
Really, they were the
that-
same games, but like the textures for one wouldn't work on the other. So it's like we had to do kind of. It was really kind of two different games for the most part.
I remember that Frogger game for the PSP, because I was PSP crazy. I loved it. Um,
Hmm.
but I remember it. I did buy it. I don't know how much of it I played. I wouldn't say that I played much of it.
I wouldn't. I would. I like. It was not a good game.
No.
No. But I learned so much from that place and those people.
Yeah.
And I would never trade it for the world. And I made some friends that, I hope to never lose because they're friends I still have and talk to all the time. And
Yeah.
that place, I had to go 6,000 miles to get my first job, and 6,000 because my family was in New Jersey at the time.
Wow.
Nobody would hire me, so this place gave me a chance, and it'll always have a special place in my heart, even though I was paid very, very little.
Yeah. Well, for Oahu, it's a very expensive city to live. But did
It's good.
you, how did you actually get any work done? I mean, it's a vacation spot. I thought about like moving to Hawaii, and every time I keep thinking, like, could I still stay productive knowing that I could be, chilling on the beach every night?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, like while we were there, they worked us really, really hard.
Okay.
It was usually a lot of times it was like 7 days a week, and it was
Whoa.
15 hours a day, probably.
What?
Sometimes more than that. Yeah, no, it was a lot.
So your whole
Like
life, basically.
I don't remember resting that much. Now,
Wow.
I mean, there's times where like Konami wouldn't pay for like QA, so for like 3 months we had to do QA our own games.
Mm.
Which, by the way, mad respect to QA people, because I can't do that. I almost went insane from just playing the same very small game over and over every day for 3 months. Like,
Let alone one that those assets in and out, like
oh
because you
yeah,
created
yeah.
those assets, so you're just seeing them constantly.
There is no joy in it at
Yeah.
that point. But yeah, they were very cheap when it came to certain things.
Here's another question for you. What was the first video game job that you applied for? Where did you want to go? And did you get a letter back?
I think the first one I applied for, and this isn't going to sound like it's not going to sound like what it means, but the first one I applied for was Blizzard, and I was turned down. I was actually turned down for Blizzard 3 times before the fourth time I sent my work in to a friend that worked there, and that's how I got hired there. But yeah,
So your buddy got you in.
he wasn't my buddy at the time. He was a friend of a
Uh,
friend I was working with.
nice. Well, still, it certainly helps. But at that point, you had game experience. You had worked on, what did you say, 3 shipped titles?
More than that, because I actually worked on Dance Dance Revolution, two games after that too. So within 3 years, I had like 5 shipped games, and I
That's
did
cranking them out, man.
I
Wow.
did I did everything I tried everything while I was there. I did like sprite animation, I did environment concept art, character illustration work. I did character design. I did massive amounts of environment textures. I did some environment modeling. I game design documents. Video editing, 3D animation. I tried everything, which is kind of the benefit of starting at a small studio.
Oh, yeah.
You figure out what you really like to do and what you don't really like to do.
Yeah. You get to wear many, many hats.
You kind of have to.
Yeah, too many things need done, and there are just not enough people to do it. And usually your first take is like, that goes in the game.
Yeah.
Because there's no time to redo it. We don't have the budget. We don't have the budget.
What do you mean redo it? It's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. So you've worked on a good number of games, and of all of them, like which game that you've worked on is your favorite to have both worked on and to play?
Um, it's the one I'm working on now.
Which one is that?
Well, see, I kind of don't want to say that much about where I work and what I do
Okay,
for the
I
most
understand.
part, but it's like, but I work at Blizzard, and it's a game that's coming out soon. That's all I'm gonna say.
Awesome. After a long day of doing concept art, you get to go home and you get to work on personal projects. So, do you have a personal project that you're working on right now? And if so, could you tell us a little bit about it?
Um, yes, I'm working on my own IP, which I'm foolishly developing into my own comic, despite my friends like you telling me it's a stupid idea.
I did not say that it's a bad. You're saying a bad idea to do comics. I'm not saying
Yes.
that. No, I'm just
It's
saying
like
that don't do it for the money because there's not going to be any.
no. I'm not
Well,
doing it
you
for the money at all.
yeah
Not no. I'm doing it because I want my own thing and because I want to tell my own stories and with my own characters and just I want to have a vehicle for me to learn how to tell stories better with my art,
yeah.
you know?
Hmm.
And it feels like the best way to do that. And I mean, I don't really it doesn't really matter to me whether people like it or not, though I'm kind of hoping they do.
Hmm.
It's just more of like my friend Nick, I asked him, I was like, man, you did all these great projects, these awesome little visual development kind of projects that are just like they're just on his blog. And I was like, what are they for? And he's like, well, I have these ideas, but at the same time I didn't really think I was very good at visual development. So I gave myself a project.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's brilliant. So that's why I'm doing it
It's
because
the
I'm like,
pursuit of personal mastery or personal development,
yeah,
fulfillment.
you want to get good at something. You can't wait for somebody to be willing to pay you to do it,
That's a great
right?
point. Yeah, that's a great point. Could you give us the elevator pitch? Could you tell us what it is, what it's about, or what's it called, or
It's about villains because villains are far more interesting to write,
okay.
and their motivations are generally simple, right? It's a town filled with villains,
Hmm.
but they're all the villains are not necessarily evil. They're just extremely selfish people, and they do what they do because this is the way their world works. But not, like some of my characters are not necessarily within that same kind of archetype, and it's kind of an adventure kind of story based
Okay.
on the fact that there's a lot of horrible people in it, but it's the tone is somewhat funny. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable saying what it's about yet until I kind of have more of it out there for people to look at.
Okay. Well, what do you have out there presently that people can go to look up more of your artwork? And like, do you have a YouTube channel yet? And
I
could
no.
people, are you going to start one?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I think yeah.
You should get one set up and then we can put a link in the bottom of this video so that people can just click on that and go right to your YouTube page
I think
and
that's an
subscribe.
excellent idea.
Yeah, so set one up tonight, even if you only have this video on there,
Okay.
and we'll put a link in the bottom of this video. And anybody that wants to see JP's future paintings, and as his comic is developing, and many of his other personal works, I'm sure he'll be posting on his channel. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes.
That's an interesting topic. How long have we known each other now?
Well, I met you probably within the first few days that I started working on WoW, which was 10 years ago now.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were doing like weapons at the time, but
Yeah,
that
I was a character artist on World of Warcraft 10 years
yeah,
ago. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and then you started doing like I started seeing more of your personal work, and it was just incredible stuff. And let's see, we never really actually worked directly on any project other than that WoW project, and that was only for a few months.
Well, I did remember I temporarily joined your team when you worked on Diablo 3, remember?
Hey, we're
It
not
was
talking about games that we worked on here.
okay.
We're
Well,
not
I'm
talking.
just gonna say, okay, I was in the same office as you
Yes,
for about 3 weeks, and that
yes.
was so fun.
Yeah. No, it was a fun project. I mean, it had its challenges, but it was a fun project overall. Yeah. So that was kind of towards the end of the development though, right? Or was that when was it?
Well, I was brought in to do concepts of characters that existed within lore
Uh-huh.
for the IP, but had never really been kind of solidified. So
Oh,
I was working with the art director and with all you guys on the concept team to kind of figure out what they would look like for this project we were working on in creative development called the Book of Cain, right?
yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I did a bunch of concepts for while I was over there with you guys, and it was super fun. Your team is what well was super fun to work with.
It's a totally different team now, man. It's a totally
Yeah,
different team. But Yeah, those were good times. Gosh, it's been 4 years since I left Blizzard actually.
Man, just time flies.
Yeah, it does. Everything's so different now. But I'm really glad that I have kept in touch with you. I would say that you and I hang out and talk a lot more now than we did when I worked there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I'm a bit of an introvert, so I was always so tired. After work, I didn't go to any of the sketch groups, and now I'm trying to make a better effort. But I know I know you do a sketch group, and I need to go more often. But
Yeah, it's on Thursdays.
yeah,
You should come out, man. It's
yeah.
this week too.
Are you inviting everybody on my YouTube channel to come out to the sketch group too?
If they want to, I mean,
It's
Starbucks might kick us out.
it's somewhere in Orange County at a Starbucks in Orange County.
Yeah,
Uh,
one week we had over 40 people. And
wow.
it was just like, okay, that's too many people.
And you kind of put all that together though, right? Like you keep.
Yeah, I've been doing it for I guess about 8 months now, just kind of organizing something because there's not really a whole lot of opportunities for people in Orange County or specifically like Irvine to get together and just draw together.
Yeah. Do you know Dan Fraga?
I know of him.
He's talking about getting a drink and draw together in Orange County. And
Oh man, that'd be so cool. Because
yeah,
I've always wanted to go up to the one in L.A., the actual drink and draw, the original. But I've
there's an
never.
official drink and draw?
I think there was.
An
Yeah,
original? I did not know
yeah.
this. Do they have a logo or?
Yes, they actually have art books that they put together.
Whoa.
I'll show you sometime. I'll send you a link.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I know you're very active in sketch groups and whatnot. You still drive up to Santa Monica now and then to go to sketch groups, and yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's super important to be social, I think, in this business and just to surround yourself with creative people and from students to pros, across the board.
I'm an introvert too. Like when I'm angry or upset, all I do is work.
Yeah,
Right? But it's like I gotta force myself to be out there and kind of around people,
yeah.
especially because it makes me uncomfortable to draw around them. Not as much anymore, but that's because I forced myself to be around strangers and draw.
You're really facing your demons there in a
Well,
way that, yeah,
you do the things that scare you, and then they don't scare you anymore.
that's true. Yeah, that's why I dress up like a clown. No,
Oh man,
oh
I'm
man,
so scared of clowns.
oh geez. Well, you saw Stephen King's It, right?
Yeah, when I was a child, and
Yeah,
it scared the crap out of me.
I can't watch it. I can't watch it.
You ever seen Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
Ridiculous.
I
I
know.
remember seeing it on VHS, man. I still remember the tape lines going through it.
It's a terrible movie.
Yeah, awful. I was drawn to the cover though. Was that a Troika film?
I don't know. I don't know. I've seen it so many times though, just because it's one of those movies that like it helps desensitize me to clown-based violence.
Clown based. We've got a lot of clown on clown crime actually going on. So yeah. Anyway, dude, it's super inspiring that you go up to all those sketch groups. It's super inspiring that you're involved in the community, and it's super inspiring that you're sharing your videos now. I'm very stoked. I can't wait to dissect your process a little bit more and see how you do a lot of what you do. I always thought you were super fast too. And now you're telling me that sometimes you spend a few days on a painting. It's surprising to me, but it's certainly I think it's very valuable that you're opening up and sharing a lot of your knowledge and experience with people. And I can't wait to watch some of your own videos, man.
All right, thanks, man. This
Yeah,
was fun.
yeah. So that was initially our conversation, and I told him I ended the recording. And I didn't. I kept it going just because I wanted to delve in a little deeper. I wanted to delve in a little bit deeper with JP, and I got some really good stuff. And afterwards, I showed it to him, and he was stoked on it. So I want to share this with you guys. We talk a little bit more about his in-depth process. So let's listen in. Let's listen into that. Okay.
So I just kind of drop a color right under a mask, and then I start dropping in like local color, like brushing it in really lightly. And that's all underneath that texture.
It's underneath the texture. So
Yeah.
your grayscale stuff. It's
Yeah.
just like your flats basically, but it's all happening underneath the gray of your pencil.
Yeah, but in this case, like I actually like I made it so that it had color, so it's actually got some of that brown in it. It's no longer just black, right? So it shows through over top of the local color, and then I mean I'll warm it up a little bit, and then I'll literally paint from this. That's it.
Wow. How long did this process take you to get to like this far in your painting though?
To get from this
pencil sketch to that, yeah, to your flats and yeah.
Oh, well, not very long, because I mean the drawing, this is in my sketchbook. I cleaned it up a little bit, and then I did the texture paths. That took maybe about 2 hours,
Wow.
because I like to prepare my drawings now. That's the line art.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. And then the actual painting is just like hours and hours of noodling. But I kind of know what everything's going to look like, so it's like at this stage, it doesn't really have to look at anything. It's just a map, and then I'll just like, I'll pick from the color that's already there and look at the environment and mix the color, how I like it. But
all the thinking and the planning is done in the first like hour or 2 hours, and then the rest of it, like, do you pop on movies? Like, what's your process?
It's usually music.
Yeah, just zone out.
Yeah, I usually just zone out to music. It's like if I got something on to watch, it'll slow me down. I love painting with Google Hangouts, but that is so much slower.
Yeah.
So I prefer to just kind of sit by myself with music on and get things done. I work 4 or 5 times faster when I'm not interacting with anybody.
Yeah, I remember working in house. Sometimes I couldn't wait to get home just so I could like be with my like alone and paint just to some Pink Floyd or something. Just put it on loop and zone out for like 3 or 4 hours, and before you know it, it's 2 a.m. and you're going to be late for work the next day. But anyway, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, go on.
No, I just going to say it's nice sometimes to just be the introvert you are, sit and work by yourself and get the thing done that you're good at doing.
Yeah. But I envy those artists like Ashley Wood that like he does like 4 or 5, pages a day or something like that. And it's just like, it is the sketch. And that was the intention. And he doesn't sit and really noodle on things. I mean, I enjoy the process from time to time, but I wish that I could get that same level of satisfaction with just like my quick sketches. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like to be able to like say, no, that's done. It's got the energy that I wanted. And like, you know what I mean? Like, and then it's done. And the implication, the effect, the ultimate outcome is what I initially intended. But I can't do that. I always end up realizing that at some point, like, oh man, I got to go back and like rework it. I got to spend more time with it to make sure that it's up to the caliber that I expect of myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I fall into the same trap because like everything I draw is for something now.
Yeah.
There's a purpose behind everything that I'm drawing, so I care about every single thing. So it's like I can't like just sit there and draw, noodle, or be like, okay, this is the sketch. Like if it's a sketch that's going to lead to something else. So there's a lot of like thinking attached to it. It's not just this is going to be what it is. And it's like those artists to do that, they're capable of it, but you know what? They're not always designing characters that need to be made into anything,
Very, very, very good point. Yeah, that's very true. They just need to fulfill the needs of that frame for that comic. Yeah.
That whatever they're doing, that's all that may exist with that.
Are you challenged with that when you're doing your own comic though? Like clearly you can't spend 2 weeks on one page.
Can't I though? I give myself deadlines, man.
Okay. But I mean, are you challenged with that balance of like this isn't like good enough? Because I was trying to do a comic while I was working on Diablo, and at some point I realized like I can't come home and spend 6 hours every week now.
Oh, I don't want to do that. I was like, this piece is special, and I'm spending extra time on it because I feel like it's a promotional piece for my comic, right?
Yeah,
But most of the comic is a lot. It's not that it's less complex than this, but there's you don't see the characters as completely realized all the time, which I think is kind of, you have to if you want to have anything in the end, because it's just like, if you're like me, you can work on a painting forever before you're done.
yeah. I feel like I could just rework and rework every single painting that I've ever done, and that would actually be satisfying to some extent.
Go and George Lucas yourself,
I
because
could, yeah, yeah, I
I
could.
was talking to Glenn. I was like, man, there's so many paintings I should just go back and tweak. And he's like, man, don't George Lucas yourself. That's like so wrong.
Well, you get trapped. You get trapped in that. But like working on games where you have to iterate so much, it
Hmm.
becomes very difficult to. I mean, you've been more on the illustrative side for a long time. You're doing concept now, but I don't know how much you do iterations. But for me, it was always like, man, you get so much stuff that you got to work and rework and then rework that it becomes very difficult to put a finite thing on it and say this is just going to be done. I'm running into that now with my first novel that I'm writing, where it's like
Yeah.
I got a bunch of feedback and I was like, throw out 90% of it.
Hmm.
And I had it done, last year, but now I literally started all over again earlier this year because
Hmm.
it's just not good enough. And I realized at some point, like, you got to move on. You know,
Hmm.
you got to It was easier when it was in the comic book days because I could just say, hey, a page every day,
Hmm.
and however good that page is at the end of the day, that's the best you could do at that time. Move on. You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
you can't rethink it. If you learn something, take it to the next page, but
Yeah.
don't go back and rework. And
Hmm.
it's really difficult to do because every page is so important, and yet every page is not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I,
a difficult balance.
you know, I, because I illustrated for so long. When I started as a concept artist, I'm like, man, I'm gonna be so slow at this. This is gonna suck. They're gonna hate having me there. But I picked up a few tricks from working with the guys I work with, and now it's so different. Like,
Yeah,
I am so fast at work in comparison to how fast I have to be at home. I don't have to be fast, but I am faster at both things because I don't have to detail everything to insanity, be, because I'm not painting giant banners, and I don't have, I mean, like, I'm not looking for that in my personal work anyway, you know?
yeah,
And it's like iterating, man, I freaking love iterating. And it's like, you know what? Nobody's going to be harder on me than I am on myself when I'm working on these paintings. So,
yeah.
you know,
No,
I don't know.
I agree with you. Like I enjoy the iteration, but it also makes it difficult to be decisive about some things,
Yeah.
because nothing ever feels like it's good enough. The only thing that makes me like I was joking with my wife the other day. I was like, I need to hire a producer for my own life, for my own
Yeah.
for my own projects.
Dude, I've thought about that too. Like,
Somebody who will just
seriously.
say like somebody who will just say, look, you know what? This is supposed to go out next week. You're done. Like
Hmm.
you cannot rework this. Like this one is done. You know what I mean?
Well,
Um,
you could, personal assistant. You could pay somebody to do that.
yeah, that's true.
People do that.
I ain't made of money though.
Peop- I know, I was gonna say that. I was like, if I had the money, yeah, two things I would have would be personal assistant and personal trainer. I'd
Exactly.
have those two things. I'd have those two people. They'd
Yeah,
be pushing me to do all the things that I really don't want to do.
yeah. Get me back on track, please. Somebody, please. Uh, yeah. Well, dude, I don't want to take up your whole night. It's super awesome to talk to you and to get a chance to sit down with you for a chunk of time and have this discussion about your past, your history, how you got in. I think it's going to be really inspiring for people and something that you can share and help to get some people to check out your own channel.
Yeah, man. I think I should post that video tonight or do I wait for you?
You can post that video tonight if you want. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. I don't know. I didn't know what you wanted to do, so
I mean, I can do it. It's your artwork. It's your image. You can do however. It's your stuff. You can do it
okay.
however you want.
I'll put it up on YouTube then. I wanted to make sure that like, you know, it was okay with you because
It's,
you asked me for it. So
it's yours. It's all
all right, all
yours.
right. Okay, all right.
I just wanted to share it with everybody that goes to my channel. You know,
Hmm.
so
Okay.
because you're one of the guys that inspires me consistently. So
Oh man, did I ever tell you like you're one of my favorite concept art comic artists when I was a kid, right?
ah ah
You and Joe Mad.
what? Yeah. Well, yeah, well, that's awesome, man. Thank you for saying that. That was John Polidora. He's a very talented and experienced concept artist, and it was such a pleasure to speak with him. If you guys want to see more of his work, check out the links in the text field below the video. If you'd like to see me do more of these dev talks with some of my friends from the game industry, please let me know. And if you have questions or comments on this conversation, drop those in the comments section. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for stopping by. As always, draw with passion. All right, dudes. Check you later. Ciao.